Watch the ride.
Hey everybody, I've had the DRZ now for, what is it, I think it's nearly 3 years. Pretty sure of that. And I thought I'd give my opinion on the things that I like about it and the things I don't like about it, because there are both, you know, it is a bike which has some flaws, but I see past a lot of them because I just love this thing so much, but that's very personal. For some people, they just want the best bike and they really don't care. The main really good point about the DRZ for me is it's just fun. It's a fun bike to ride. Yeah, it's not the fastest at all. 0 to 60 is about 4 seconds-ish. Oh, I should clarify, mine's not actually a 400, it's a 440. But we'll sort of get onto that later on. Yeah, 0 to 60, 4 seconds odd, something like that. Top speed, 105, 108 maybe, but it really, really pushes it. As far as Supermotos go, to my knowledge, it is quite a heavy bike. It's not heavy in the sense of most bikes, you know, but it is a heavier Supermoto. You know, at stock, brake horsepower is low 40s maybe. I think some people, I've seen claims anywhere from 35 to like 42 horsepower. I don't know what is actually the case, to be honest with you. I've always guessed it was around 40. With a 440 kit, I don't know what difference that's really made. But that being said, it's a great small engine that you can really use the rev range in it when you're getting through the small country roads. I mean, it's torquey as hell. You only have to touch the throttle and it just instantly comes up. Alright, calm down locals, don't call the police. I say, it's a very usable engine, that's the point. The only time it really doesn't become usable is around the 65 to 70 mile an hour mark on the motorway. It doesn't like that much. Of course, one of the best points is its off-road ability. Even with road tyres, I've done all sorts of off-roading on it, and it's great. Yeah, sure, it's not as good as a proper MX bike or anything like that, but you can do all things with it, and it's great, as I say, in the country roads, and it's great for getting around town. So it is a really good bike. It just falls down as soon as you say to it, hey, we've got to go 35 miles now on a motorway. You're just going to sit there like this, just, you know, flat out the whole way. Well, I'm not going to go flat out here. So yeah, its motorway abilities is not fantastic. That's kind of why, for me, the DRZ isn't very practical as a sole bike, unless you only go between, you know, around town, then it's great. But if you actually do have to do lots of miles, it's not fantastic for it. Now, when I bought this, it had about 8,300 miles on it, and I put a few more thousand miles on it and noticed it was burning a bit more oil than it probably should have been. The allowed amount, or the spec amount, is 1 litre used per every 1,000 miles. Which is quite a bit, but it is a single cylinder, so it does use a bit of oil. But mine was using maybe a third more than that, maybe even more than that towards the end anyway. So I had it checked out. Sure enough, the bore was scored, and the piston had some marks on it. So it was, for some reason, it was grinding away and it was letting oil through. And, you know, it didn't seem to affect the power that much. You know, it would still do over 100 mile an hour with that scored bore. If anything, putting the big bore kit on it seemed to reduce the top speed but increase the torque. Why that happened, possibly a combination of, as I say, in the first 8,300 miles that it did, someone rode it to Scotland. So yes, I had the big bore kit done. If you bought the Suzuki stock parts, you're talking like 1,800 quid. I bought I think it might have been Cylinder Works, but we're not 100% sure on that, kit. There was, you know, the piston, the head, everything you need. Not the head, sorry, the barrel, everything you needed. And it was like 330 quid. It has been rejetted, and it has an FMF powerbomb header, some random mid-pipe that I don't believe belongs on it because there is a hammered mark in the back of it to make it fit around the shock, but some people say that's actually quite a normal thing to see. Whatever. And then it's got a Lextech end can on it, carbon fibre. Great budget can, that, and it sounds great. So I say I had it fixed, and then I'm riding along, and it just made a huge bang. Seemed like the engine had seized up. It was very weird. Trying to turn it over, nothing happening. As it turned out, I thought the worst, but as it turned out, it had actually blown the spark plug clean out, because at some point, someone had cross-threaded or at least not put the spark plug in properly. And that is not that difficult to do necessarily, because the spark plug is actually down about here in the middle of the engine, and the way you have to get to that is you take the tank off and you have a special tool that goes like along down it. It's like a bendable, hingeable socket. You then slide down, take it out. Works great taking it out, but put it back in, you can't really feel what you're doing. I don't think I was the one who did that, to be honest, because I was so careful with it when I did it. I didn't think I put enough force on to do that, but whatever, that's what happened. It blew its threads out with the spark plug, and I had to get it helicoiled because it was just going to be, expensive. We also then discovered at that point that the cooling system wasn't opening properly, so there was we had to replace like the filler cap because that was letting some gas out or something, and there was some other internal parts of the water cooling system, I believe, that had to be replaced. It was an expensive fix. I bought this bike. I bought this bike for a fair price, and in the first 2 years, I did probably spend about 50% on it again, fixing it. But now it's absolutely mint. Yeah, it needs a new set of plastics. Really, they're all right, but some fresh plastics would look great. I've always been trying to get hold of some white ones. It's not that easy. Some people say that the DRZ engine is bulletproof, and it seems that they generally are. I just got maybe very unlucky. Looks-wise, I love it. I know it's very retro with the square light, and it's got the big fender and everything, but I really like it. I just do. To me, every time I look at this bike, even though I've owned it for like nearly 3 years, every time I open the garage door and I look at it, I'm just like, I love that thing. It's such a toy, and it looks so cool. And it's the bike that I wanted to have throughout the 7 years of me, being on a 125. I always dreamed of getting on my bigger bike, and I was always just like, I know what I want. I want a DRZ. And then I got one, and it's amazing. That's why Derek, he's called Derek, I don't ride him as much as my XJ6, because that's what I ended up getting to help me cover the miles, because if I hadn't done that, how much more would I have spent on this to get it fixed? I now use this as a fun bike for fun rides and short rides. The brakes on this, now for me, I don't think they're that great, but lots of people say the DRZ brakes are fantastic. I don't know. I mean, they're good. It's just they're not as instant as I'd like them to be. It might be that I could do with doing a rebuild on the calipers. I did get a kit to do that, but I couldn't hold the pistons, and the pistons are plastic, and I was like, I'd rather get metal replacements, and I just haven't really gone down that line looking yet. And they're good enough. They're not like scary or anything. Well, they were until I bled them properly. But if you put a oversized rotor and a caliper extender on it, you can put a 320 on there, and that will be, a hell of a lot better. But whatever. Rear brake, that's a rear brake, they work. One of the oddities about the DRZ is that it's a dry sump, so you put your oil in here in the frame, and you only have 1.8 litres in there, so that's nearly 2 quarts, I believe. And half of it's kept in the frame and half's kept in the engine. It basically circulates, so it never has a lot of oil in the engine at once. And for that reason, you should replace the oil on a DRZ every 1,000, 1,500 miles, it's suggested. And I do tend to keep to that. Now, I'm 6'4", so I absolutely love the height of this bike. Because, for me, as I say, I step on it, I can flat foot it, but the seat's just pressing into my balls, if you know what I mean. So it is literally the perfect height. I could even be a little bit too tall for it still. This has been raised very slightly, not a lot. The links have been changed at some point. There's some Lust Racing links on there that's just raised up a little bit. Any more bad points? The light isn't amazing. That's another thing, to be honest. It's a bit crap. I put a better bulb in there, that's helped a bit, but you can get different lights for these to really improve that. Another thing about DRZs that you have to just get over in the first few months of owning one is they make weird noises. They make really weird mechanical noises from the engine. They just do. And it scares the hell out of you, because you're like, what's that noise? What's going on? And it's just the bike. It's just the way that it is. Incredibly controllable at slow speeds, it has to be said. And one of the nice things about the DRZ in the UK is that not many people have one, and they always draw attention. Now, I'm not one to be, I'm not a poser, I don't really care if people pay attention to me or not, but it's nice that when you have people come up to you and say, hey, that's a really cool bike, man, I like that. It isn't the most vibey bike in the world, but it isn't the most, smooth, subtle, no vibration type bike. But if you've ridden a KTM 640 is a 625cc. That thing is unbelievable compared to this. This feels so smooth. I went from one to the other when I rode Lamb Chop's old 640, and honestly, that thing was insane how much it vibrated. When you got onto this was just like, oh, so smooth. Obviously, there is an inherent stability with Supermotos. I am quite happy to, well, not quite happy, I will risk riding in the ice and stuff, and thick ice and snow and all sorts on this, because, I don't know, I just feel more secure, more stable, more balanced than on like a sports bike or my sports tourer. Obviously, it's very windy on the motorway as well. It's another bad point, and that tends to make me get achy hips. I know it's weird to say that, but it's because you're constantly trying to hold yourself as you're just being blown back. But if you're on like an A road in the summer doing like 50-55, just cruising along, it's gorgeous. It can be a bit twitchy, but that's one of the nice things about it in a way. You know, the tail doesn't mind stepping out a bit under power if the tyres aren't quite warmed up enough, but it always feels manageable and controllable. I really should get hold of one of the flat slide carbs, the FCR carbs, because it makes a world of difference, I'm told. Really, really makes a big power difference. Reason I haven't done that as yet is just because it's quite an expensive part. And also, I've found that the power of this has now is actually really good and usable, and you can push the tuning of a DRZ engine quite a long way. You know, there are examples of 60 brake horsepower models being made out there which are reliable still. In America, the DRZ is common, it is cheap, you can get parts everywhere super cheap, you can get millions of you know, modification parts for it just because that many people had them. In the UK, it's not the case. We never really got many of them. We won't be getting any more because they are not going to update the DRZ to EFI for Euro 4 or put ABS on it, I don't think. So this is kind of the end of an era for Suzuki and for well, carb Supermotos for definite, because I don't think there's any other carb Supermotos sold after this. I don't think. Fuel, I think I get about 45 or 50 miles to the gallon, which is not bad to be fair. That's the general things that are good and the bad about it. I can't, if I've left any obvious huge things out, I've just forgotten. I'm going to put it as a comment and pin it at the top. I like it more than it's good, if you know what I mean. I like underdoggy bikes, if you know what I mean by that as well. I just love the thing. I just enjoy it so much. And as I say, every time I look at it, I'm just like, I love that I have that thing. But if I was to go down to one bike, you know, I don't think it can be one of these, unless you're just like, well, okay, I don't go a long way on the motorway, or if I do, it's 55 and just sit in the left-hand lane and cruise along. In that case, you know, you're not going to have a problem, I don't think. Apart from the fact that you're replacing oil a lot, because, you know, how often you're supposed to replace it. So there you go. If you've got a DRZ, what are your thoughts? Have you got any things that you particularly like or dislike that I haven't mentioned? Or do you agree or disagree with any of them? I don't mind hearing. This is pretty much all opinion, unless it's a fact which I've got wrong. Go on. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, and I'll catch you next time.